Hello everyone, my name is Ashish and welcome to the Xadmin channel. So guys, in this lecture we are going to build a REST API Spring Boot project using the Spring Boot, Spring JPA and MySQL. And guys, in this lecture or guys in this project I will show you how to write the CRUD operations like create or insert or update any data or to get the data from database and how to delete any data from the database. And guys, in this I will use the MySQL database. All right, so let us start the session to create a small example or a project using the Spring Boot, Spring JPA and MySQL database. So first of all, let's go to our the Eclipse ID and here file, new. So guys, in the Eclipse we are not getting any option to, so let's go to our Google, and inside the Google we can create the Spring Boot project using the Spring Initializer. All right, so this is the Spring Initializer website, start.spring.io URL, and inside this we have to select the Maven project, and the Spring Boot I will select this episode as 2.1.15. all right, and now we have to provide the project metadata. So let's keep the name as com.xadmin. So let's give the artifact name as a Spring Boot CRUD. all right, so demo of the project for CRUD operation, and my package name will be com.xadmin.springboot CRUD. all right, and packaging I will do with a jar, and the Java I am using 8. all right, so we have to add the dependencies, so I will use the Spring Wave. So now add dependencies, so I will use JPA, Spring JPA, so just add Spring JPA, and also I will use the MySQL driver, so MySQL driver. all right, so these are the dependencies I have added, like the Spring Wave, Spring Data JPA and the MySQL driver. all right, and now I am going to generate. So let's add Spring Boot, create folder, and inside this folder I am going to add our zip folder. So now guys, it is going to download the project in a zip format. So let's open it, let's extract it here. So guys, okay, so now guys, I'm going to import this inside our Eclipse. So go to the file, open project from the file system, and you have to choose the directory. So we have inside our and Spring Boot. all right, so you have to select the Spring Boot project from here, and now press OK and finish it. So guys, by this I have imported the Spring Boot like the CRUD inside our Eclipse. all right, so this is our project, and guys, inside the pom.xml I am getting some error, so let's check pom.xml. okay, so guys, here you can say that this is my pom.xml, and inside this you can see the dependencies. We have the Spring Boot starter data JPA and the Spring Boot starter wave, and we have the MySQL, and also we have the starter test to test this our project. all right, so we are getting some error in the line first. okay, so guys, here you can see that we are using the property, the Java version 1.8 we are using. So let's add the Maven jar, so let's add a Maven jar plugin. okay, Maven jar plugin, and I want the version for this is like 3.1.1. all right, and now let's save our project. So guys, you can see that our error has been removed as I add the Maven jar plugin version. okay, so now guys, I have to, so let's update our project because we are getting an error, so we have to update our project. So let's clean, so Maven clean. Okay, so go to the Maven and then update the project. So Spring Boot CRUD is selected, so now do OK. So guys, you can see that the red cross has removed from there as I update. And now guys, inside this you can see that we have a source and the main Java folder, and inside this we have a Spring Boot, and guys inside this we have a Spring Boot CRUD application, the main class, and guys this is the starting class, and guys this is the starting of our application. So guys, as we start our application, it is going to execute this class first because we have a main method here. All right, so we have the pom.xml also. All right, so guys, inside the Java folder we have to create the separate package. Okay, so guys, now I'm going to create the package first and then I will use. Okay, so guys, Control N, and we have to create the package first. So we have the package here. So next, so let us assign the package with the name com.xadmin. all right, dot spring boot crud dot bean. all right, so let me first copy this, yeah, dot bean. So let's finish it. So guys, inside the bean package I am going to store our bean class. Okay, and now guys, let's create the next package. So Control N, so next, so let's give this package name as a controller. all right, so guys, inside this I'm going to create our controller class. So let's create another package. So let's create the another package with the name the repository. Okay, repository. all right, so let's finish this, and now again I will create one more package. So my package name will be like a service class. So guys, this is the service package to store our service class. So okay, so guys, inside the Java folder I have created the 4 packages with the name bean, controller, and the repository, and a service class. Okay, so guys, the first of all I am going to create a bean class. So right click on the bean package and then we have to create a class. So let's go to the click class and do next. all right, so now guys, I'm going to give the name of this class as a subject and then finish it. all right, so now guys, inside this class I am going to write the properties like the ID and the name. all right, so let's write a private string ID and the next property as a private string name. all right, and now guys, I am going to create the getter and the setter method. So resource generate getter and setter, select all. Okay, all right, so guys, this is the entity class. So guys, we have to mark this class with the entity annotation. So at the rate entity. all right, okay, so we have to import this also. So it should show us. So guys, we have to import this with the package javax and the persistence package. Okay, and guys, I want to create the table inside the database of the MySQL with the name subject. Okay, so let's use the annotation table and let's provide the name as the subject. all right, and we have to import this with the package javax persistence class. all right, so guys, this is the entity class and we have the 2 properties, ID and the name, and we have the getter and the setter method, and we have marked this class with the @entity class, and we have marked this with the annotation @annotation table, so that guys, it will create the table inside the database as we start the server, or guys, as we start this Spring Boot application, it is going to search for the entity class. And guys, as we have used the @entity annotation, so guys, it is going to create a table with the name subject inside our database. And guys, here the ID and the name will be the column of that table subject inside our database. All right. And guys, I want that this ID to should be a primary key, so that's why I will add annotation ID to this. Okay, so let's import this with a Java X persistence. All right. So guys, till here I have created a bean class, a subject bean class with the property ID and the name. And now guys, let's create a constructor for this. So right click, source, go for the constructor using the field, select all, and then press OK. Okay. And now guys, I will create one more constructor as a default constructor. So generate constructor with the field and deselect all and click OK. So guys, I have created the two constructor. The first is the default constructor, and the second is the constructor with the parameters in which I am passing the ID and the name. All right. And we have the ID and the name as a property, and we have this assigned this class with the entity class, so that guys, this class will be entity class. And guys, as the Spring Boot application startup, it is going to search for the entity, and guys, it will find that here the entity is marked with this with a subject class. So it is going to create a table with the name subject inside the database. And guys, it is going to provide the two columns, the ID and the name, and here the primary key will be the ID. All right. So now guys, the next we have to create the class is going to so guys, now I'm going to create a controller class. So new other and the class next. Okay. And now I'm going to name this subject controller. Finish it. So guys, I have created a controller class. So now guys, as we know that we are building a REST API project with the REST controller. So we have to mark this controller with the REST controller annotation, so that the Spring Boot will like the know that this is the REST controller. Okay. So mark this with the REST controller annotation. Okay. And we have to import with the org.spring framework web.bind annotation. All right. All right. And now guys, what I will do, and guys, here I will create a methods to get the subject from the database, to create or like to add any subject in the database, and to delete a subject from the database, and also a method to update the subject to the database. All right. So guys, the first of all, I'm going to create a method to get all the subject from the database. So let's create a method, public, and the return type I'm going to keep is as a list, and it is of the subject type. All right. So let's give the name get all subjects. All right. So let's import this with a java.util, and we have to also import the subject by the from the bean package, and we have a method with the name get all subject. So guys, now guys, we have a get all subject method. Okay. So now guys, I'm going to call a service class from here. So let's create a service class first. So go to the service package and create a service class here. So let's keep the service name as a subject service. All right. So finish it. And now guys, here I have created a class with the name subject service. So guys, we have to mark this with the annotation at the rate service. Okay. And we have to import. So servic, yeah, this is fine. Service cannot be resolved. So we have to mark this with the annotation. VICE. All right. So we have to import with the org.springframework.stereotype. All right. So let's import this. And now guys, I have made this the subject service class as a service class. All right. And now guys, inside this I'm going to create a method list subject. Okay, and the method name I'm going to keep as a get all subjects. Okay, and after this guys, let's import this with the Java util subject with the bean class. And now guys, I am going to call the repository class of the Spring JPA to get all the data from the database directly. And guys, from the okay, so guys, from the service class I am going to call the repository. Okay, so for that guys, we have to create a repository class also. So let's create a repository class, control and class. Okay, so let's give this name as a subject repository, subject repository. All right. And guys, here the subject repository class will be my interface, not a class, so change it with interface. All right. So guys, here the subject repository will be my interface, and guys, it is going to extend the CRUD repository of the Spring JPA. So we have to extend with the CRUD repository. All right. And guys, it is taking the two as the subject is the bean class in which okay, and here guys, we have to pass the data type of the the primary key. So guys, inside the subject class you can see that we have the ID as a primary key, and guys, it has the string data type return type, so we have to pass this as a string here. All right. So guys, we have to import the subject. So let's import this CRUD repository first, and now guys, we have to import the subject from the bean class. All right, from the bean package. So guys, I have created a subject repository interface, and which is extending the CRUD repository of the Spring JPA, and guys, it is coming from the org.springframework.data repository the CRUD repository package. All right. So guys, till here we have done, and guys, inside the CRUD repository class we have all the methods like the save method. So let's go to this class, and guys, you can see that we have the save method, and we have the find by ID method to get any object according to the ID, and we have the find all method to get all the object present inside our database, and also the find all by ID, and also a delete any object from the database according to the ID. Okay, and we have a method also to delete all the object from the database. Okay, so guys, we have extended this with the CRUD repository. So now guys, what we are going to do from inside our the service class, we are going to call the method. So guys, for that we have to get the object of the subject repository interface, and guys, we know that it is interface, so guys, we cannot create the object, but guys, we can create the reference variable for that. So let's create a reference variable of the subject repository interface. All right, subject repository, subject repo, let's name it subject repo. So we have to import this from the package repository package. All right, and now guys, we have to annotate with the auto wired. So let's annotate it with the annotation auto wired. So import this with the Spring Bean annotation package. All right, and now guys I am going to call the method. So let's subject repo. All right, so guys, after calling the subject repo class, we can see that guys we are getting these methods like count, delete. So guys, to get all the subject we can call like a find all method. All right, so guys, the find all method is inside the CRUD repository class. So guys, we are using the find all method to get all the object, and now guys we are going to iterate this. So for that I will use the for each loop, and now guys I have to iterate all the object and we have to store in a list. So for that I have to create a list first. So let's create an array list with the name subject. Okay, so let's keep it as a subjects new array list. All right, so let's import this with the Java util package. And now guys here I am going to use like okay, and now guys here we are using the for each loop to iterate all the object, and we are going to add every object to the subject array list. So let's use the method reference here to add all the object into the subject array list. Okay, and then we are going to return these subjects from here. Okay, and now guys we are going to write in our subject controller. So guys, and now guys we have to call the subject get all subject method from the subject controller. So guys, we have to take the object of the subject service class. All right, so for that guys we are going to use the annotation, the @auto wire annotation. So let's create the object or the reference variable. So subject service. So now I'm taking the reference variable of the subject service class. All right, so let's import with the service package, and let's annotate with the auto wired. All right, so let's import. All right, so guys here the subject service class, and now guys we are going to call the get all method of the subject service class. So let's copy this. So subject service, let's change the spelling, VICE. all right, service dot get all subject method. All right, and guys we have to return this method. So let's return this. Okay, and guys here okay, and guys inside the controller I am going to use the the request mapping to map the URL. So now guys I am going to keep the URL name as a subjects. Okay, so guys here the subject is the URL, and guys it is going to map with this method, the get all subjects method, and guys it is going to call the get all subject method of the service class. And guys inside the service class it is going to call the find all method of the CRUD repository, and guys it is going to take all the object from the database, and it is going to iterate every object, and it is going to add one by one to the array list, and we are returning to our controller. And now guys controller will directly give the response to our to our the browser in a form of a JSON format. So let's import this request mapping. All right, so guys, we have completed our get all subject method, and now guys, I am going to write a next method to add a subject to the database. It means to create a new subject object inside our database. So for that, I am going to write a separate method, and guys, I will use a separate @request mapping URL. All right, so guys, let's write a method to add a subject to the database. So public void, so let's give this name as a add subject. All right, and now guys, let's put request mapping. So guys, here I am going to use the request mapping as the subject only, but here the method I am going to use as a put method. So let's write a method equal to request method dot put. All right, so here you can see that we are getting a put method. All right, and now guys, the value of the URL I am going to use as the same as the subject only. Okay, subjects, and here guys, we have to pass the ID. It means that guys, according to the ID we are going to, okay, so guys, here guys, I will use the URL as the subject itself. Okay, so guys, here you can see that we have a request mapping and we have a method type as a put, and we have a value of the request URL as a subject itself. Okay, and so guys, let's call a method like so guys, after the controller we have to call the service class. All right, so let's call a subject service dot, and guys, inside the service class we don't have any method written to add subject, so let's add subject method here. Okay, and guys, inside the add subject method we have to capture the request body also. Okay, and guys, so guys, to capture the request body we have to use the request body annotation. Okay, at the request body annotation, and it is going to take the subject. All right, so at the annotation will be imported, so import it, and now guys, we have to pass this subject object here. So guys, we don't have the add subject method inside our service class, so let's create a method inside our service class. So now guys, I have added a add subject method, and guys, here you can see that it is taking the subject as the argument. And now guys, we have to call the subject repository class, and we have to call a method to add a subject. All right, so subject repo is my reference variable, and guys, with this reference variable I am going to call a method of the CRUD repository. So guys, here we can see that we have a list of method here, so go down, and guys, here you can see that we have a save method. So guys, we can use the save method, and here you have to pass the subject object, and guys, it will call a save method of the CRUD repository, and guys, it will save a new object to our database table with the name subject. All right, so guys, here we can use the subject repo dot the save method to directly create a new object inside our table. All right, so guys, we have implemented like a method to add any subject to our database, and now guys, I am going to write another method to update any subject. All right, so let's do one thing guys, let's copy this and let's paste it here, and now guys, I'm going to change according to the requirement. Okay, so guys, here we have to use the update method. So guys, to update, and sorry guys, here you can see that we are using the add subject method. So guys, here we have to use the post method, http post method. So guys, here you have to do the post to add any subject. Okay, And now guys we have to update, so let's change this method to update subject. Okay, and we can use the put method to update. All right, so this will be in capital letter. So we have to use the post method here to add any subject to our database, and to update any subject we have to use the put method. And guys, the URL will be the subject, and guys here I will pass an ID, and guys according to this ID it is going to update that ID's object. All right, so here you have to pass the ID. All right, and now guys, here guys I have used a request body subject to capture the object of the subject, and also we are getting the ID from the URL. So guys, we have to capture the ID from the request URL. So for that guys, we can use the annotation, the path variable. Okay, so guys, you can use the path variable annotation to capture the ID from the request URL. So let's import this. So guys, here the the path variable will capture the ID from the request body or the request URL, and the request body will capture the request body. And guys, here we have to pass in a subject object, and after that guys we have to call the update subject method. So guys, we have to create the update subject method inside our service class. All right, so here we have to pass the ID and the subject. All right, so let's create a method update subject inside our subject service class. And now guys, I have to call a method from the CRUD repository. So let's call a subject repo reference variable, and guys, with this subject repo reference variable I am going to call a method. So guys, here we have a list of method. So guys, for the so guys, to update any object in the database we can use the save method itself. Okay, and here we have to pass the subject. So guys, here the save method can be used to add any subject to the database, and also to update any subject to the database. Okay, it means that guys, if we are saving the data, it means guys it will check first that is there any subject with the same ID is present inside the database or not. If the ID is if the object is not present, then guys it is going to create a new object in the table, or otherwise if the object is already present, then it is going to update that object. Okay, so guys, here the save method can be used for both purposes, to add subject and also to update a subject. And guys, if any object is already present, then guys it is going to update that subject. It means that guys it is going to replace this whole object with this subject object. And guys, if any object is not present, like the same object is not present, then guys it is going to insert a fresh object inside a table, right? So guys, the save object can be used to update and also to add a new subject. All right, so guys, we have created the update method also. And now guys, the next method which I am going to write is a delete method. So guys, inside the controller, let's write a delete method first. Public void delete subject. Okay, and guys, we are going to delete any subject according to the ID. So we have to capture the ID from the URL. So for that I will use a path variable annotation. So guys, the path variable annotation is used to capture the ID from the request URL variable. So this is of the string type ID. All right, so path spelling mistake, yeah, now it's fine. And now guys, I'm going to call a delete method inside our service class. So subject service. Okay, and guys, inside the service class we don't have any delete method, so let's write a delete method, and we will create a delete subject method inside our service class, and here you have to pass the id. So let's create a method to the subject class, to our service class. Okay, and now guys, I have to implement a delete method here. So we are going to call the same way subject repo dot, and guys here we can use, and guys here you can use a delete by id method to delete any object from the from the table according to this id. All right, and guys here you can see that it is going to call the delete by id method of the CRUD repository class, and guys it is going to delete the object according to the id from the database table. All right, so guys, inside the controller we have implemented the four method, like to get all subject, and also a method to add a new subject to the database, and also a method to update any subject, and now a method to delete a subject. All right, and guys here the controller will go to our service class, and after the service class it is going to call a repository. So guys, we have created a subject repository interface, and we have extended with a CRUD repository class. And okay, and guys, the CRUD repository class is of a Spring JPA, which have the the methods like a save all, save or delete or update method already. So guys, we are going to use that method of the Spring JPA to do our the CRUD operation. And guys, here you can see that we have to write a very low code to do a CRUD operations, like to get data, to save data. Okay, so now guys, we have written all our Java classes, and guys here we have created the controller layer, and also we have created a service layer, and we have a repository layer to deal with the database. Okay, and now guys, we have to write a code we have to write a code to our application.properties file. So go to the resource, and guys, inside the resource folder you will find application.properties file. And now guys, we have to write the configuration to get connected with the MySQL database. All right, so let's write a configuration to get connected with the MySQL database. And guys, inside the pom.xml, if you'll see, we have already written the MySQL connector JPA dependencies. Okay, so guys, and now guys, we have to write the application.properties configuration to get connected with the MySQL database. So guys, we have to write the configuration inside our application.properties file. Okay, so spring dot data source dot driver class name. So guys, we have to provide our the the driver class for the MySQL. So guys, it will be like com.mysql, okay, dot jdbc. All right, and the driver. All right, so let's copy this, and the next we have to provide the URL for our, so let's change, so data source, and after that we have to write the URL, and we have to provide the URL to get connected with the MySQL database. Okay, so guys, the URL will be jdbc MySQL colon and the local host. All right, and the 3306 is the default port number of my MySQL. And guys, I have already created a user DB database inside of my MySQL. Okay, so guys, I will use the user DB database. All right, so guys, I have written the user DB here, and guys, port number of the MySQL will be the 3306. All right, and now guys, I have to provide the username also. So let's write spring dot data source dot username. All right, and here the username will be root. So spring dot data source dot password. So password of my MySQL is like root password given, okay. And now guys, I have to uh, spring dot JPA dot show, okay, spring dot JPA dot show dash SQL, and guys here we have to provide this as a true. All right, and guys we have to also provide the JPA DDL auto as a update. So spring dot JPA dot DDL dash auto as a update. All right, and now guys the next configuration we have to do as a spring dot JPA dot generate DDL, okay, DDL as a true. We have to do this as a true. So guys, spring JPA generate DDL as a true. And now guys the next configuration we have to do the spring dot JPA dot Hibernate okay, Hibernate dot DDL auto, as we have to write as a create. So guys, spring JPA Hibernate and the DDL auto as we have to assign as a create. Now with the next configuration, the spring dot JPA dot properties dot Hibernate dot dialect, we have to use the dialect here. So guys, here the dialect I am using as a org dot Hibernate dot dialect, okay, is like MySQL InnoDB dialect, okay. So guys, here the spring JPA properties dot Hibernate dot dialect I am going to use as a value as a org dot Hibernate dot dialect dot MySQL, okay, and MySQL and 5 InnoDB dialect. All right, and now guys the next, so guys, so let's change the port. So guys, it is better to change the port. So guys, I will use the port as guys, let's say I will use 9111, okay. So let's save this. So guys, we have saved this, and guys here we are using the properties inside the application properties, and guys here the driver name I will use as a com.mysql.jdbc driver is my driver name of the MySQL, and the URL is like JDBC MySQL localhost and the port number and the DB name. All right, and guys, this is my username of the MySQL as a root, and the password is this, and we have to write the spring JPA show SQL as a true, and the JPA DDL auto as a update, and the JPA generate DDL as a true, and also the JPA Hibernate DDL auto as a create. And then guys, we have to use the dialect as a org.hibernate.dialect.mysql 5 InnoDB dialect. All right, so guys, here I have written the application dot properties file, and now guys what I will do, so now guys I am going to open my MySQL, and guys here I'm going to use my MySQL workbench, and let's enter the password. And here we have a user DB database, and guys here you can see that we have a table, and guys we don't have the subject table yet. Okay, so let's do one thing, let's use this. So use user db, okay, and let's execute this. Okay, and guys here you can see that I am using the user db table, means the database. So let's go to our Eclipse, and now guys I am going to execute our application. So go to our Spring Boot here, okay, and guys here you can see that this is the main class. So right click here, run as the Java application. So guys, as I will run the Java application, it should start the server. So we are getting any problem, access denied to user localhost using password, no. So let's check that whether I have provided a wrong password. Root password given is my password. So let's check. We are getting any error. So error is like access denied for the user root using password, no. So I think there is a mistake in my password. Okay, so let me check the password. So now guys I am going to run this project again. So run as the Java application. So guys, after running this application, so guys you can see that we are getting, and guys we are able to create the table with the name subject, and here we have the ID, name, and the primary key as a ID and the name. Okay, and now guys we are going to verify this inside our the MySQL workbench. So we have this table. So let's refresh all this, and guys as we start our application, the Spring Boot application, it will create a table with the name subject inside our MySQL database. So let's refresh this, let's see this, and guys you can see that we have successfully created the subject table, and inside the subject table we have the two columns with the name, ID, and the name, and guys here we can see that we have the data as a null now. Okay, so guys we have successfully started our like the application, and guys you can see that we started a Spring Boot CRUD application in 8.8 seconds, and guys here the port number is 8111. So let's go to our browser. So guys let's go to our Postman, and here guys I am going to add the subject to the database, and also I am going to update the data to the subject table. Okay, so here the port number is like 911. Okay, and here guys you have to do the get method to get the data from the database, and let's send a request as a get request. So guys as you can see that we are getting as an array of null, because guys we don't have any data. Okay, and now guys we are going to add the data to the subject, the database table subject. So guys for that we have to do the post, and guys we have to write a body also, and guys inside the body I have written the ID as 101 and the name as a Spring Framework. All right, and guys here I am going to put a request to the database using a post method. Okay, and inside the body I have written the JSON format as ID and name. So let's send a request, and guys as you can see that it is showing a 200 OK error. So now it's time to get the data from the database. So let's send a request by getting a data, and guys you can see that we got a data as 101 and the Spring Framework. Now guys I am going to add the another data. So let's add with the ID 202, and let's add Spring Framework boot. Okay, and here guys I am going to do a post method. So now guys let's add a object to the database. So guys it's showing 200 OK, it's mean it has successfully posted or inserted data. Now let's get a data. So get method and the URL will be the subjects. Okay, so let's send it. So now guys, you can see that we are getting the two data from the database as the ID 101 and the ID 202. It means that guys, our add method and the get all subject method is working fine. Now guys, we are going to check our update method. So guys, as you remember, we have used the put method to update any subject, and port number is this subject, and guys, we have to pass the ID also. So 202 is my ID, and now guys, I am going to change the name as a Spring Framework Boot Updated. Okay, so guys, I have written the name as a Spring Framework Boot Updated. Now guys, I am going to send a request of a put method, so send it. So guys, as it is showing 200. Okay, so let's get the data, and guys, if the data has been updated or not, we are going to see now. So we have to remove this ID if we are using a get method. So send a request. So guys, here you can see that we got the two values in a JSON format, and inside the 202 you can see that we are getting the name as Spring Framework Boot Updated. It means that it is working fine. Update method is working fine. Now next method we have implemented as a delete method. So let's delete 202. So we have to change this to the delete method. So guys, we are pushing the request, or we are passing a request with the delete method, and in the URL, subjects and the ID. All right, so let's send the request. So method not allowed, delete not supported, method not allowed. So guys, for some reason delete is not working. So let's go to our clips, and here let's see what we got the error. Using delete request method, delete not supported. So let's go to our controller and let's check that what we have done mistake. Okay guys, you can see that I have not entered a request mapping here for delete method. All right, so this is the mistake I have done. So request mapping, and here you have to, and here I will use a delete method. All right, and the value will be the same as a subject ID. Okay, and now guys, I think it should work, because, and guys, we have missed the request mapping for the delete subject method in the controller. So let's save this file. So we have to again restart our server. All right, no problem. So right click, run as the Java application. So let's go to our Postman, and now guys, here we are going to check the data. Okay, so now guys, let's post some data again. Okay, so with the ID 202, so let's post some data. Now guys, again I am going to post another data. Let's say 456 Spring Framework. Let's keep this name as a Spring Boot. So now guys, I am going to get the data which we have just inserted. So guys, we have the two data with the ID 202 456. Okay, now guys, I am going to delete the 202 ID. All right, so let's write 202. Now guys, let's use a delete HTTP method, and we have used the URL as a subject 202, and let's send it. And now guys, you can see that we got 200 okay response. So let's get, and now guys, it should return only the one object from the response to the response. So guys, here you can see that we are getting only the 456 id object. It means that we are able to delete this successfully. Okay, so guys, it means that all the methods are working fine, and guys, we have implemented the CRUD operations like to get all data, to enter the data, or to create a new data, to insert a new data to the database, and also I have written a method to update the data, and also we have written a delete method to delete the subject from the database. And guys, this is the controller, and guys, here we have used the controller layer, service layer, and then we are calling the repository, and guys, inside this repository we are using the CRUD operations. So guys, the first of all, as we are inserting any data to the database, so guys, here the request mapping is subject, and here guys, okay, and guys, here the post is used, the post method is used to insert any data, and guys, here we are taking the request body object by using @request body annotation, and guys, we are passing this subject object to the add subject of the service layer, and guys, it is saving the data by calling a save method of the CRUD operation, and guys, in the same way it is deleting, and guys, in the same way it is taking all the data, and guys, here we have written some piece of code to fetch all the object one by one, and then we are adding this to the array list of subject, and we are returning. And guys, here the Spring Boot is okay, and here the Spring Boot is like automatically giving the response in a form of a JSON. Okay, so guys, this is a small application or a project to build okay, and guys, here I have implemented the CRUD operations. Okay, and guys, by using the Spring Boot, JPA, and the MySQL database. Okay, and guys, I hope you understand this lecture. So thank you guys, and have a nice day.